thank you all for coming together. If you stop and think about this for a second, even though this activity has been ongoing, it was proposed in 2016. This is the first time awardees, or all of the awardees, we have now funded all the different activities we will be doing, and all of the awardees in person are meeting. So thank you very much. I suspect that, well, let's keep going here. Let's go to the next slide, if you would, please. A very brief history of that, but since it is the first in-person meeting, I think we're going to do some of those. Can I get the following people to stand up, right? And just so people start, oh, that's so-and-so, okay? Or those are people that are also in DSC. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that, guys. So it's like, warm up. And then just a very short number of takeaways, because we have now funded all of the activities that we had planned to do. 5 years, $150 million program. You're all here. Okay, next slide. Okay, no problem. So what was it? There were the prior director of the foundation had 10 big ideas that they were that they thought these are important topics to be working on. The top 6, the first top 2 columns, 3 across, were scientific areas, the environment. We're obviously in the upper corner there that there's a lot of data that's starting to come together. What can we make use of it with? So the foundation had 10 big ideas, 6 of which were major problems to try and address, 4 of which were internal to the foundation, that how can we do everything from include more people to work together better. Next slide. So when the Harnessing the Data Revolution activity was put together, there were basically 3 components. And so I don't think those components have basically been together this entire time that we've had the HDR going. The foundation activities, there's tripods is the acronym for that. And so there's both a first round of activities that were funded. So what are you seeing there? There's sort of 3 components of HDR. The red arrows point to, on the other side, how do we turn that into programmatics? So we have 3 areas. One is tripods. The red is, for those of you who have proposed to us multiple times, are the solicitation numbers both in 2019 and 2021 when we were funding activities. So for the first area, there was a round of funding for tripods in 2019. And this is going to be the first time that the folks from the 2021 solicitation will be here, simply because those awards were made in 2022. So very, very recent activities. Education and workforce development, again, 2 rounds of activities. There were about 10 awards each time, and they are a widely varying set of activities. So we actually, you'll see today that we have people in all categories from both the first round and second round of activities. And then the third way we were trying to put things together is, can we put together larger sustainable groupings of organizations that can work together to with their expertise in the relevant science areas, the relevant data issues, the relevant everything in these areas. How can we make this sustainable? And in the first round, and I'll show that in a minute on the next slide, we looked 2 ways. So we were using what was a relatively, it has become more popular since, the idea of ideas labs. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you have been involved with that ideas lab yeah, see. So that was done in the 2019, 4 days of your life just vanished without sleep to take and turn a couple-page idea into potential proposals. That was one route that we took for making requesting proposals. The other one was a more typical, if you had an existing group together, that you would propose through what we called a framework. So there were a number of activities. There were actually dozens of activities that we funded in 2019. And then we were going to downsize it to a smaller number of activities. If we can go to the next slide, Phil, please. That's just drawing a picture of that across the top arrow. If you didn't have a team, but you had an idea, those hands that were raised put together 2-page, here's what I'm interested in doing, and here's my capability. And not quite 500 of those came in and were sorted through and came down to a much smaller group of people that were at the Ideas Lab, and then wound up being asked for proposals. That's one group. Existing teams across the top, you're all familiar with the proposed to a solicitation. And between the two of them, 28 projects came together that in 2021, we would then take and narrow it down to smaller, to larger activities. And we had an open competition for that. For so many of the 28 projects proposed. And then, but again, it was not, we don't know everything. So outside activities were also requested. So let's go to the next slide, please. So here's by the numbers. In the first round, there were 9 data science core activities that were funded. There were 15, as you saw in the prior slide, 15 ideas labs and 13 frameworks. So that's where the 38, the 28 comes from. And then tripods, we had 15 activities that were put together. In 2021, the data science core again proposed, and about the same number, 10 that time, the data intensive institutes, there were 5 of them that were funded, and then tripods, 2 of them have recently been announced. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm basically going to take a couple of moments because let's face it, unlike coming to an annual meeting in your expertise area where you know at least 10 to 20% of the people there, probably for many of you, it's like, I'm it today. So what I'd like to do very quickly is what you're seeing up there now is, although it's the 2 most recent awardees, what I'd like is that I'd like to go through the various areas and just, can I have all the tripods people, because we have some from phase 1 as well as phase 2 stand up. And I know Lev, you're here. Yes, so great. I found it. So please just stand up for a second for these. So Lev is leading this. Are there others from your program that are here today, or okay, great. Thank you very much. You guys are good. And so that's that one. And then from the UCSD activity, can I have the folks that were from that one? Great, thank you. Don't be shy, right? Great. So yes, point at him. That's good. That's a good way to do it too. Okay. So welcome. Sorry, this is how this crowd operates. You probably needed to know that before you came here. But in any case, we are very glad you're here because again, the activities that you folks are doing are providing the underlying algorithms and capabilities that we will draw on and use in the future. So those are the tripods activities. Let me go to the next slide. You will never need to wear corrected lenses when you drive ever again. This is the most recent set of activities, and there's 10 of them here. But what I'd like to do is to have, why don't we have you guys stand for a second, and then you can wave as we go on. So all the people from Data Science Core, is that not just the 10 that are here, there's some of you from the earlier science, see, Science Core activities. So for example, and again, so welcoming the 10 new ones, I think if you take and organize them, 5 of them are looking, what is the Data Science Core doing? They take particular topics and they're trying to create a future for the community. So 5 of them in this round have focused on a particular area. So there's one from Florida. Yep, excellent, well done. Okay, so from Florida, there's one from the Delaware Valley that is also there. Excellent, welcome. Chicago, just a whole city under siege, data siege. Thank you very much. Then there's Florida. Yeah, I did that already. Okay, the drugs are really helping. So anyway, and then we have 2 out in the inland, in California. There's an Inland Empire activity that's going on. There's one from UC Irvine, and actually there's one of the first rounds from UC Santa Barbara. So Again, just all over the country, we have a lot of these activities going on. We have one that is focused on engineering. Okay, and there was a prior one that also did that as well. We have, let's see, the drugs are working now. We also had a couple of them that just basically were going across various areas. One was at Purdue. So this is just, they used a wide variety, so welcome from Purdue. And Penn State, I guess, is the engineering one that is going across areas. We also, and Raleigh, we'll introduce the NSF people in just a second, but Raleigh Martin, there's a couple of environmentally focused activities that were going on. There's one that I think it's both University of Arizona and Oregon that, thank you, that is looking at biosystems. And then there's also one at Houston, Texas. Excellent, welcome. Energy, how do we get work in the new energy environment? So I probably missed somebody, right? I owe you lunch, so who's that, right? Okay, go for it, please, tell me. Thank you, it's the pathways one. It's just how can you get from a bachelor's to a master's? Thank you very much, I owe you lunch. So thank you for that, folks. Let's maybe go to the next slide, please. And so now these are the 5 big institutes. This is again a wide, although there's leads on these, many of them have, dozens of collaborators, work with industry, have a lot of activities going on. Thank you earlier, the earlier talk is Chi. And what I'd like to have you folks do is let you guys stand up, okay? This is all the institute folks. Go girl. All right, so let's see, Berger Wolf, that was just waving, and colleagues there, please, thank you very much. Vandana, there you are, thank you, very good. Eric Tober, you saw him raise his hand, he's practicing, good job. And Xiaowen are the PIs on this, but you're seeing some of the collaborators as well here. So again, just wanting to make sure that as the day goes on, you get to know these folks as well, because what we did is originally, and I'll let you sit down, it's hard for me to do that. So I'm just going to sit here in my little personal perch here. But what the plan was originally when this system was being put together is that we would put together something that would be a separate sort of a central data hub of how do you communicate, how do you get things out, and things like that. Given that it is a former director's activity, and so there's a little bit of a branding action going on there. What we did is, as you were hearing earlier, the funds were put into the centers that, here's the deal. You host the PI meetings, and all of you are expected to be outward facing. So that how do you grow in a way that makes sense? I mean, you can't do everything for everybody, but if you have a lot of experience in the biosciences, can you use that in an interesting or valuable way to make sure that wider communities have access to these new data capabilities that are being developed? And also, how do you store the lessons learned? I think that's going to be one of the key things, and I would really welcome this whole room working on that, because how do you take the information that you're going to learn in these meetings from these various activities and make it something that is easily findable and usable by the rest of the community, or by a new community that's like, I have this problem, how am I going to handle it? Well, it kind of looks like this, what did they do? So that's something that we really will need. I think that could be a very helpful to us activity in the future, because again, we are delighted to have funded these activities. It's just, how can we make best use of it? So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make all my NSF colleagues stand up. Come on, Peter, up, Thank you, Sylvia. All right, so up front here, Raleigh Martin. So a couple of the DSCs, he's the program officer from the Geosciences organization. And Dr. Finbar Sloan, Barry Sloan over there you've just recently renamed the education director, like yesterday, right? That's right, STEM education. So thank you, sir. Next to him, many of you have your program officer, Sylvia Spengler. And any words? Yeah, okay, that's right. Next over, Daryl Hess from the material science area. Okay, you're all going to be quiet. It's like the kindergarten class. Okay. Yeah, it's like the class that they don't want to talk to each other yet. They haven't played together with the Legos. Peter, okay, in great biosciences, and Slava has been a great help in organizing this initial meeting. Thank you very much. Go Slava. Okay, and Shahab from the engineering directorate. So gee, look who you're next to. See that whole ring of people right there? That's Shahab, okay? Great, and yep, okay, and oh, there, okay, I mean, you're wearing a mask. Okay, Cheryl Evie, okay, can you see that having issues there? And then Phil, so Cheryl is from the Social and Behavioral Sciences organization, and Phil is also from the Computer Science Directorate. Excellent. Welcome, Stacy. Okay, you can see that we too have suffered from turnover in the population while we've all been sitting at home. I also realized that for those of you who are here from the tripods activities, that I was told that Tracy Kimbrell and Christopher Stark they just can't be here right now, but you will see them a little bit later today, probably as well as some of my other colleagues here. So again, please, during the day today and tomorrow, job one is to start to get to meet your community, because these are all people that are funded to get the word out. So let me turn to the next page. Basic, okay, good job, takeaways. All right, so what is the status? Is that we did what we had planned to do. 5 years, 30 million a year is now invested in the activities that you are doing now. This is and the group is here now. So but also what that means is coming back to the HDR solicitations in the future will not happen, right? We have a new director, there's a lot of new directions, but what we also know is that data is still a problem, right? There's lots of it. It has issues. How do you use it? How do you store it? How do you access it? All of the usual problems still exist. So there will be new programs with new titles, and it will probably be all over the map, which is why we've tried to make this an ecosystem. And Peter always likes to get after me. It's like, well, there's ecosystem that we use the term for in bio, and there's ecosystem that we're using it for here. So we can argue about that later. But that basically putting a few tent stakes down in the ground across these various science and research disciplines to try and see how can we solve problems in more than one area? Again, outward looking, how can we train the workforce of the future? How can we include wider swaths of the community? How can we do things like that? And that's the second. The key goal is providing value from here on out. Is that we've put in the investment. We know you guys can do this. Is that all kinds of areas that you're working in, the algorithms, the approaches, the students that you're investing in and working with, and then the lessons learned. We need to have you help us by documenting those, any new ideas, how do you get them out? So that's going to be something that's really important, you know, that you used it in a particular case, can it be used more widely? So then that's the challenges, right? We have a few of you, tripods institutes, HDR institutes, DSC tasks, is that how do you get that to be a working ecosystem? How do you engage a broad range of institution types? And just how do you sustain the communications, the lessons learned? So I want to do basically that, but most of all, I have to say it has been my pleasure and privilege to work with some of the hardest working, insightful, willing to work together people at NSF. I really appreciate what they're doing, but I also know that all of you out there that have had these tasks and have been taking them students and training them, or you have been trying to find those new approaches and algorithms, or have been trying to put together a group of 25 people, no two of whom are from the same science discipline, and patiently try to communicate with each other. you are basically at the start of your tasks. So we look forward to hearing from you over the next few years as these meetings, these PI meetings, move ahead. This one is mostly an organizational and a meet in a lot of ways. But again, the ideas for how to work in the future. And again, we really appreciate it. Thank you in advance for what is about to happen. So I'll take questions if we have time, but thank you very much.
We have time for a few questions. Could you help to turn the volume up? And
okay, team, NSF team, you feel free to bail me out here now and then.
yeah, we have two mic, one in front and Phil. Is that working? Could you test? Test.
Yeah.
Test. No, the front microphone still need to be a bit louder.
What number is on?
Test. Number? Okay. 3913.
No, there's a sticker on it, or not sticker, but a date.
Oh, 2.
Much easier. Okay,
Okay.
go for it, girl.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you. I hope it.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya. Thank you for supporting all of us. Thank you to the whole NSF team for making all of this happen and everything and everybody who will represent and the activities that we represent. So going forward, you mentioned that HDR is going away, but data is not. And what should we be looking out for? Because I think they're emerging, as even represented by this particular meeting. There are a couple of challenges that we have in addressing those challenges, right? It is about coordination and communication, and it is about the data infrastructure that's necessary for all of us to do our work, essentially. So which tea leaves should we be reading, and what should we be looking out for and in the upcoming programs?
Great question. And again, while HDR doesn't have additional funding, the data problems will not go away. There is a whole new directorate at the foundation that is looking at how to get new ideas to wider communities. They're still setting up their organization, right?
You're talking about TIP?
Answers. That's right, TIP, yes. But technology, innovation and partnerships, that they're looking for ways to do that. So that's one place that maybe some of the DSC kinds of activities might make sense. The institutes each have a different flavor, and I think you'll see some of that as you go and take a look at them. Yours is tending to look at the biosciences, but again, what we are tending to find is that across the different organizations, that the problems often can be the same, that social sciences and education both have privacy issues, and that huge amounts of data happen in everything from neuroscience to astronomy to the geosciences. So you start from where you and your team have expertise, but again, unlike a lot of NSF activities, this is not an award to make that immediate team only. Is that it's also to look out and there's many ways that you can look forward across these areas. I don't know if I've quite answered that. Well, there's Sylvia. Okay, my colleague Sylvia, would you like to help answer?
So let me encourage you all. This is almost November. Everybody's saying vote. Computer scientists and domain scientists associated with computer science, educators, you all vote that way at the polls, but you also vote by making your voices heard within NSF. Each of you has clout that way, good old Chicago word, has clout that way. And I bet the number of you who have used it is a very small fraction. Please make your voices known. There are problems, I hate to say it, in data science that have been around since I look at meetings reports in the 90s and I think, well, haven't solved that one yet, have we? So it's not that the problems are solved. The problems are glossed over. You used to have a sign that said data eats the world. Well, it will eat the world even in the age of climate change unless we're really careful. What are you going to do about that? What are the kinds of problems you have? What are the things that are just drive you, keep your heart going and keep your eyes open at night? Tell your directorates about that. Look at the advisory boards. See who you know. Get their ear. Beat them about the head and shoulders. Come on, people. You're a community. Act like one.
Okay.
Did you know I was from California?
Okay.
Right, we can have one last question.
Okay.
Anyone?
I think they're next
Oh,
to.
yeah.
So thanks for that question, which was sort of looking forward. This question is a little bit more looking back. What impact has COVID had on a lot of the research activities in the first couple rounds of awards that you could speak to?
I think we were seeing that throughout the academic environment, and that so none of you is a stranger to that, right? Is that people were focusing on how do we live through this pandemic, that there was not a lot of connection and communication. It's a great question. And so now, but we also, who had heard of Zoom? Actually, March 15th at the National Science Foundation, throughout the foundation, at least on our floor, the computer science floor, they basically packed us in a room, if you can believe it. And they were saying, look, Blue Jeans and WebEx, we're not going to use those anymore. We have this new system. It's called Zoom, and here's how it works. You know, and of course, some of the people in the room were like, wait, show me how you turn that on again. You know, where's the button? Right? It's just all the kinds of stuff you see with people and things like that. Who would have thought? And then he threw us out. I thought, this is a disaster that is not waiting to happen. So we have now become, all of us, I think, Zoom or just much more telework adept. And that could actually be an advantage, at least where your organization is probably doing the same thing. Who has to come in Monday through Friday these days, right? To work. I mean, there's places where physically you have to be there to do something. But that not all of us. So looking forward, I don't know where suddenly there are now weak or thin places in the wall that we could maybe address that could make things work better. But I know I'm not sure that I'm the person with the answer, and I'm not sure that I answered your question.
I was thinking more along the lines of, the projects spin out all of their funding, was there, sort of leftovers, what proposed activities may be changed.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll get some of that as we talk in the next days, but I was wondering from your perspective, what you've seen.
We had done a lot of no-cost extensions, right? What a surprise! And why? And so that's why we do have the value. We're lucky to have the round one people here as well. So to help out. So I think we have the muscle from a lot more people. But I just, in all honesty, this is a former director's activity, right? Great idea, former directors. We have a branding problem, but it doesn't mean that the data issues have gone away. So that's the thing. We're setting up a lot of new ideas. The election is now very few days away. Who knows what will be the new strong activities that will be pushed, but they'll all depend on data team, right? Okay.
If I may just quickly add to that and actually connect to the previous question, which is, I think, one in grants I manage, they've seen impact on not just slower spending, but part of the slower spending is because people have been having trouble hiring, right? So lots of nodding heads, right? Students and postdocs. And I think that might have, there have been multiple things that have accumulated over time, over the last few years, let's say, including pre-COVID, including people who are no longer coming to this country that used to come to this country from elsewhere. And that only exacerbates the workforce problem. And that's where there's a connection to the previous question, all right? And across NSF, across directorates, there is recognition, both the pure numbers and the breadth, and making sure that we're tapping all of the talent in this country, because face it, we just can't rely, face, I have an accent, right? You can't rely on people coming in as much as we did in this country. So that for the DSCs especially, there are pathways within the foundation which are, I think, building up and will continue to build up at least for the near future to take advantage of these possibilities.
Great. Thank you, Slava.
All right, let's thanks again.